Hello, and welcome to Recapping with Delora
and Ashley.
Please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Recapping Podcast.
Also, rate, review, and subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast platform. We're on all the things.
We want to hear your thoughts on the movies and shows we review.
Leave us a comment on Apple Podcasts or our YouTube channel, and we will read them during the show.
Or reach out to us on social media. We love talking all things entertainment and pop culture with you.
Thank you guys so much for listening.
Thank you.
All right, Delora, we are back. Hey, everybody.
Hello. Our first recap of the year.
First recap of 2025. And guess what? It's messy because
so messy.
The drama surrounding this cast continues to go. And guys, we teased this at the end of our episode on Thursday. So if you have not listened to our Headlines and Hot Topics episode, be sure to go back and catch it. But today we are talking about the hit film, It Ends With Us. It was released in theaters back in August 2024, and it is based on the 2016 best-selling book by Colleen Hoover. It is directed by Justin Baldoni. Quick summary. Lily Bloom moves to Boston to chase her lifelong dream of opening her own business. A chance meeting with charming neurosurgeon Ryle Kincaid soon sparks an intense connection. But as the two fall deeply in love, she begins to see sides of Ryle that remind her of her parents' relationship. Again, just want to give a disclaimer on this episode that we will be talking about domestic violence. So the cast of this film, Blake Lively stars as Lily Bloom. We have Justin Baldoni as Ryle Kincaid. We have Jenny Slate as Alyssa. And we have Brandon Sklenar as Atlas. Reviews, Rotten Tomatoes, 55% critic score, 89% audience score, and 74% of Google users gave this film a thumbs up. Delora, drama aside, before we get into all of that, what is your grade just for the experience of watching the film It Ends With Us?
I read the book, and unfortunately, I wasn't able to watch the film before the drama hit the fan. And I will say it did affect my watching, because you want to look between Justin and Blake and see if they're, you see something, you notice something, right? But based off of the entertainment of the movie, and then, like I said, I read the book, I think this is a really great book adaptation. Like, it's pretty in line for the most part. And you and I have watched plenty of movies, read plenty of books that just do not align at all. And this isn't one of them. I enjoyed it. It is a little bit, it gives me the feels of the early 2000s, like a Walk to Remember type of film, or the Nicholas Sparks type of films. And I appreciate it. I can give this movie an A-, B+. I enjoyed it. I almost would watch it again, but I don't know. It's too much drama. Like again, like I would have this movie on rotation. Like it's a good one.
Yeah. Drama aside, gave this film a B, and I'm gonna get more into it once we really get going, because you and I, Delora, have had a conversation even over the phone about some of my feelings about the way that things were depicted, that I don't know necessarily if I loved, but I did watch the movie first and then I read the book, right? So I was able to take the film for what it was and then get a chance to really go in depth, because the thing that always makes a big difference for me in my experiences, and I'm sure in most people's, between a book and a film, is that internal monologue that you get from at least the main character that gives you a much better perception of reality than what you may get just watching a film. So I feel like I needed some of that with this particular adaptation. I just didn't get it to the extent I would have wanted it, but we'll get into all of that. So guys, for the sake of this recap, I did go ahead and binge listen to the book since Delora had already read it so that we could compare and contrast and talk about that as well. And then talk a little bit about just this overall drama that we've all experienced with this cast now, because, you know, during the even run of the press tour, we were getting inklings that things were going on with this cast. Justin seemed separated and isolated from everybody else in interviews. Yes. They wouldn't really speak about him in their joint interviews. Justin would really kind of try to keep it more to domestic violence and things like that as showing support and saying this is what the real theme of this movie is. And it seemed like Blake and the rest of the cast were focused more on trying to keep it light and cute, talk about wearing your florals and all this and that.
Get your girlfriends and wear your florals. Like, girl, what?
So people already had like thoughts and feelings, I feel like, in general about, oh, it seems like Blake and those folks are tone deaf and Justin's much more in line with what we would expect from the tone of a film like this. And then they let the movie do its thing at the box office. Again, $351 million is nothing to sneeze about.
Right.
And then cut to December 20th, right before Christmas, Blake Lively drops a bombshell lawsuit, sues Justin Baldoni and his production company alleging sexual harassment. She also cited that this was a part of an alleged retaliatory public smear campaign to destroy her reputation. She said that Justin, who directed, produced, and starred in the film, exhibited disturbing and unprofessional behavior on set that led to a hostile work environment. She also names his producing partner, Jamie Heath, his production company, Wayfarer Studios, and its co-founder, as well as the publicists who were a part of the run, again, of a lot of things that happened with the press tour and a lot of other things. I'm reading from people.com. They have a very robust write-up on everything that happened. But since this happened, the New York Times published an article called "We Can Bury Anyone Inside a Hollywood Smear Machine." Justin Baldoni has now filed a lawsuit against them for $250 million, alleging libel, false light invasion of privacy, promissory fraud, and breach of implied, in fact, contract. And it's also said that Justin is going to be filing a lawsuit against Blake herself. So this drama has been ongoing and I think will continue to be ongoing. Even at the end of this article, they basically project that this is probably going to go to court because of the fact that they have such, it seems like, an intense drama just amongst themselves. This is the type of case that goes to court because there's really no way to settle it. It seems like it's very personal. So Delora, you said that the drama, it was hard for you to separate that once you actually not read the book, but watched the film. How have you felt about overall the situation itself and what has happened between this cast?
Well, I feel like it saddens me because I've been a fan of Justin since Jane the Virgin. Like, I followed him when he got engaged to his wife and they had 2 babies, and him developing his production company and doing movies like 5 Feet Apart and Clouds and things like that. Like, he was known for being really deep and very caring for the world, you know? And so to hear Blake Lively come out with her lawsuit and claiming sexual harassment and everything along those lines, I find it to be unbelievable. Like, I'm like, he's not that great of an actor. At least I didn't think so. But when it first came out, it was giving Drake, though. Like,
that was my actual words, I think, was like, This feels like maybe you should just let this go. Like you lost in the court of public opinion. So now you're
Right.
trying to call your lawyer.
Because no one told her to simultaneously promote her products at the same time. She was like, girls, bring your friends, wear your florals, and buy my hair products and have my drinks be mocked up as mocktails and cocktails. And it's like, alcohol is usually associated with DV. You know what I mean? So it was just it her actions in her interviews and rolling out her products made her seem disconnected. And I feel like, she's claiming that the studio told her to do, to go in a particular direction. We'll figure that out in court, whether that or not that's true or not. But Justin had nothing to do with those elements that made people feel that way towards her.
Yeah. I have not tried to fall too hard one way or another. It's kind of just felt like I'm trying to be a fly on the wall and just understand the overall situation, because I like both of them. Like I was a Gossip Girl fan and watcher. I think I'm a big fan of like The Age of Adeline that
Yes,
that Blake Lively did, and I like Justin as well from Jane the Virgin. He was definitely my fave. Raphael was in the whole love triangle. And so I was just confused because I think, we used to talk about, oh, this is in the same vein as like Don't Worry, Darling. But no, it's not. Like, Don't Worry, Darling, there were rumors of on-set tension and issues, but they kept it mum and kept it tight.
And kept it going because there were no lawsuits.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it was never any inkling of there being any type of behavior that anybody felt the need to sue for or feel uncomfortable about to this extent, right? And so sexual harassment is a big allegation. And huge. I think based on some of the information that we've seen, some of the text messages we've seen, I'm just curious when everything gets released and kind of how things are going to be settled, because even TMZ, the founder of TMZ, noted both sides have been trying to sway the public perception, both sides, right? So it just feels very manipulative in terms of like our ability to know what's true and what's not. Yes. And I think that's another thing that's kind of made me like pull back from it. Is like, I do feel like I'm being manipulated and I don't know by who, and I don't like it,
Yeah. So that was my initial thoughts when the Blake Lively suit came to light, especially in, connection with the New York Times. I'm just like, well, this is frustrating if I was literally being bamboozled in real time. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it should be really interesting what the court is going to be able to reveal.
And also if it's going to make any difference in some of the actual fallout professionally that has happened. Like Justin got dropped by his talent agency. The the female co-host of his podcast has left. He lost an award that he had won. These sorts of things. Like, is anything going to change professionally or in terms of public opinion if it does go to trial and some type of verdict is issued? Is that really going to make a difference to people? He
actually came out. There's a video or an audio recording that came out today saying that he was completely iced out of his own movie premiere. He and his families were in the basement. So this is ugly.
Yeah.
Ugly.
And it's a shame too, especially when the subject matter is so sensitive. It's like, this is not just some frivolous Hollywood movie.
For Colleen Hoover, even though I call her a sadist, her books are insane. They are insane. November 9th, Ugly Love. Y'all, why have I read them? I don't know. I just like torturing myself. This is us. I'll go ahead and tell the story too. I'm in my fictional bag right now, and I referenced social media to get my next recommended book. And I'm really good for going in cold. So I remember seeing, oh, here are romance books, but they're all pink. This is really big on social media. It's like, here are all pink covers or blue covers, green covers. And I saw some of the books that I had previous read that were cute and light and funny. And then before they made the cover for the movie, it was a pink cover with like flowers scattered across it. And I was like, oh, okay, let me put this on my Libby. Let me put it on hold. So I'm listening to this book. I'm listening to this book. And it's one of those things where it's like, oh, you get into the love story. And then it pivots. And then it's like, oh, this is not what I thought this was about at all. And I legit threw the book, just like Bradley Cooper. At the end of
the Silver Linings Playbook.
Yes, because I was like, what the fuck did I just read? But for Colleen Hoover, this is one of her most personal books. It is something that her family had to face. And so to what
she asked her mother's permission before she wrote this book.
Yes. So. And so, you know, to what you were saying, like this also resonated with so many people who read it too, who might have dealt with this in their own lives or their family, friends' life, what have you. And so this just takes away from the art.
Yes. From the impact of the story and the experiences that people shared as a part of this art, to your point. And we damn sure ain't getting no sequel with this cast. I'll tell you that.
Oh, no, the second book is not as strong as the first, but I feel like this is part of, I'm not really taking anybody's sides, but I feel like Blake is fighting this hard is because Justin has the rights to these books. And if it's true that she came in wanting to swing her weight around, it's almost like she wants to shake the rights out of his hands so she can have them and, get rid of him.
Well, so, we will have to wait and see how these chips fall, but I will say that all the drama aside, guys, if you have not read the book or watched the movie or anything like that, I hope you still can go into the experience and appreciate it for what it is and relate to it if it is necessary for you to relate to it and all those things, because I do still feel like both of the book and the film were an experience. So let's get into a spoiler alert, Delora, and actually get into the content, shall we? So the movie begins with Lily going home to Maine for her father's funeral. And this scene where she goes up to give a speech differs in the movie and in the book, in that in the movie, she goes up there, she says, oh, I'm going to say 5 great things about my dad. And then she just kind of has nothing and says, oh, I'm sorry, and leaves. In the book, she stands up there for minutes to make a point about the fact that, yo, I don't have any nice words for my father. And I felt like, I get for the sake of runtime and for a movie that maybe they felt like her just hopping off stage was just as impactful, but I disagree. That was one of the scenes that after I read the book, I was like, I wish they had given a little bit more time to make the point of like, I really don't F with this man. You know what I mean?
Ooh, yep.
How did you feel about that scene?
Yeah, I honestly forgot a little bit about the book because I read it back in 2022. So it's been a couple of years. So I remember major plot points, but not all the details. And to your point, that would have been more impactful because, her dad was a respected member of their community. And if his own daughter didn't have nice things to say, this should really speak to his character.
Absolutely. So we have the meet cute shortly thereafter between Lily and Ryle. She's up on the roof of his apartment building. And again, talking about differences between the film adaptation and the book, I didn't know why the whole change in age was a big deal when the book was first adapted into a film. Everybody was like, Blake Lively's too old to play this character.
Yeah.
In the
Yeah.
book, she is 23 years old, right?
Yep.
And I do feel like that makes a big difference in the agency you may have at that time, in
Power dynamic.
power dynamics, in your ability to be not manipulated, but swayed in certain
Yes.
ways. And you feel Blake Lively's agency and presence so strongly in the film. And that varies a lot to me from the version of Lily I feel like I get in the book. Not to say that she is easily manipulated, but I feel like you feel her age a little bit more. Because in the Meet Cute, when she's sitting up on the ledge in the movie, Ryle's like, "Can you get down here making me nervous?" She said, "Nah, I'm good." Right. So he joins her. In the book, she gets down.
She does.
She gets down.
Yep. Exactly. Because honestly, the young lady who plays Blake's character could have just been Lily the whole time. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's a great call out. And, I feel like they tried to compensate with Blake's character because I feel like she says, "I'm sorry" entirely too much in this freaking movie. It's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Girl, okay." Like,
she also tries to kind of keep it light and cute. She giggles a lot. She has
yes,
a disposition that you can tell is supposed to be built around being pleasing.
yeah, a
Right?
people pleaser.
Yes.
Yeah,
You can sense it, you can feel it. But again, Blake is very firm seeming in who she is. And not to say Lily is not in the book as well, but it's a little less so. It's a little less palpable. So it's just I just really noticed that difference in the
but we
interpretation.
also in the freaking book, she's writing letters to freaking Ellen. So there's a level of immaturity that is very easy to gauge in the book that you don't get in
I
the
only
movie.
caught the one time in a flashback that we will get where it said "Dear Ellen," which I didn't
Yep.
catch until I read the book because I didn't
Yep.
note that when I was watching the movie the first time. But yeah, I mean, I say all this to say I do think now that there is a difference in casting someone that's an older version, and even Ryle as well, because Ryle in the book is in his late 20s.
Yeah.
Justin is not in his late 20s, baby.
He is not.
So
No.
they age them both up. And I do think that changes the dynamics. Lily ends up on this Meet Cute telling Ryle about her high school homeless hookup with Atlas. And that for her, love story. For him, he's like, what was going on in your life that that you would have possibly had this happen?
So hard because it's not every day someone tells you, "I gave my virginity to a homeless man."
Yes. Yes.
What?
And understanding what the circumstances could have possibly been.
Like, are you okay?
Yeah. Were they okay?
But then I'm upset that she phrased it that way. She didn't have to do Atlas like that.
Well, she ended up saying, "Oh, should I say like unhoused, or you know what I mean? Like temporarily unsheltered. Like, is there a different term I should be using?" But we are able to get flashbacks after that, right? Because, Lily and Ryle, they have this flirtation, but he's a neurosurgeon. He gets called away and nothing ends up happening. Because one thing I want to highlight too before we get into the flashback is in their dynamic, Lily is a relationship girl and Ryle is only looking for a one night stand. He said, "I don't do love, but lust is cool." And Lily's like, "I'm not a hookup type chick. I'm the type of girl you take home to your mama."
Love isn't for me, but lust will work. I was like, I have never heard anyone spoke so frankly about lust before.
Well, I feel like you have to have a certain level of arrogance, and Ryle does.
Yep. What's so funny?
Get these lines off.
Oh, easy. So one of my I follow this one guy's dating advice. Granted, I'm not dating, but I find his tips to be fascinating. And he has this whole post that says occupations that you should not date. And on the list, police officers, firefighters, and surgeons. He's like, these men have God complexes. And he
Mm.
said, and then he said, pastors. He's like, pastors, because you're a sinner in their eyes. And then
They're sinners. Let's be for real.
girl. And then I forget the other one, but the surgeon one, I was like, that is so true, right? Like, I shouldn't say so true. I can see it where, and Ryle is, his character speaks to that in volumes.
He definitely does. She asked, "Oh, how many women does this work on?" And he said, all of them. The fact that Lily was still about to let him kind of play with her, I was like, see, again, this is why he keeps doing it, because he has the look and the charm and the arrogance to get this off. But I have to say, watching it a second time, even the first time, but especially the second time, I thought, if I first meet a man and he's busting down a chair in a fit of anger, I don't know if I'd be that attracted to that man.
Ashley, I was like, I wrote in my notes, I'm like, me cute, burst of anger, question mark, question mark, question mark. Like, this isn't endearing. And even when I read the book, I was like, in my mind, I'm like, so this man is pummeling a chair. I don't care how good you supposedly look. That's a no for me, dog.
Yeah, it did not seem like it's a good setup to first meet somebody and not think that they might have some issues that they need to work out, right? Like, he tells her that, oh, it's because I had a tough day. A child killed their sibling and all this and that. But I would have still been like, yeah, but that's a little bit scary that's your
Like,
reaction.
how do you manage your anger?
Yeah, on a daily basis, because you have to deal with this life and death.
This is high pressure.
On a daily basis. So, yeah. All right, let's get into these flashbacks. So we get to see Lily and Atlas back when they are teenagers and they meet. What were your thoughts on the chemistry between young Lily and young Atlas in these flashbacks?
That's a great question. I don't know. I have to say, I really do feel like my watching experience was very convoluted because I was looking for everything, you know what I mean? I mean, even when I watched it again, I can't tell you. I think they were fine. Like I said, it was a good movie, so they did their jobs, right? But I can't speak to like, oh, if it was palpable or anything like that. What I will say is, especially when I watched it again, I realized like, oh, Lily loves a project. And I say that because I will get there with Atlas, but specifically with Rael, he told her that he is not a relationship guy. And we'll get there, but she still was there trying to change his mind or go along with what he proposed. You know what I mean?
Say, was she trying to change his mind? He was coming on strong. But let me say real quick, another age difference thing that came up for me in this is that they didn't really dwell on the difference in their ages in the film when they're young. Mm-hmm. Lily is 15 and Atlas is 18.
Yep.
So that was a significant thing of note for me when I read the book. I was like, hold on, sir. You was asking her when she was turning 16, what's the age of consent in Maine? Because is that why you're asking?
Probably.
Yeah. Because you about to be 19 here soon. Yeah. But again, we don't get as much time to dwell and live in their relationship as we did in the book. So I still found it quite endearing, especially to think about. I mean, they bonded over the abuse that they both experienced in their households because, Lily's father was very abusive to her mother, and she had to see multiple situations and scenes where her father is beating on her mother. At one point, tries to rape her mother, things like that. And Atlas has escaped from abuse as well. It's one of the reasons why he is homeless and not living in his mother's home. So it's definitely something that, will bring you together, especially as kids when you're still trying to figure out life and navigate and you need people to depend on, because Lily is really there to kind of take care of him in certain ways, brings him food, offers him a place to come shower. He's still going to school and he doesn't have anywhere to sleep and doesn't have anything to eat and, all these things. And he's still at an age where, people are making fun of confronting him on the bus and all this stuff. So I can only imagine somebody showing you, especially at that age when kids can be cruel, such a level of kindness. I would have fallen in love with Lily too, right? Like,
Easy,
yeah,
easy.
yeah, it would have been easy to do.
I will say, I need to work on my imagination, but the house in the movie was a lot grander and nicer
Oh,
than I
yeah.
thought. I was like, "Oh, this is a neighborhood." Okay.
Yeah. Their
Like,
house was gorgeous, was
yep.
definitely gorgeous. And I also want to say about the situation between Lily and Atlas, as you know, beautiful as it was, they ended up having each other. Unfortunately, it also ended violently when they were
Girl.
kids.
So I forgot about that actually when from the books, and when I watched it, I was like, there is violence all through this situation.
Yeah, and in the book, it's worse. In the book, Lily's dad busts them in bed together, and he beats Atlas with a bat. At least in the
Yes.
film, it seems like it's just fists. And yes, he's still bloody and taken to the hospital. But
Yep.
imagine as a teenager, a grown man comes and beats you with a bat, you
Crazy.
know? And so,
I mean, it
thankfully,
still makes sense though. I mean, homeless guy. Is she 16 at that point? I hope so.
I don't know, but I would not have immediately assumed. I mean, he was a violent man, so that is what
Yes.
it is. But I would not immediately assume that you would. It was a decision they mutually made. At least have a conversation before you come swinging. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So thankfully Atlas survived. In the book, he ends up, going into the Marines as he does in the film and moving on. And but they both talk about, moving to Boston because in the book and in the film, everything's better in Boston is a big
Everything's
theme.
better in Boston. Yep.
Yeah. As we move back to the present, Lily, after that night that she met Ryle, thought, oh, I'm never going to see this dude again. Huh. She ends up reconnecting with him in her new flower shop because Lily Blossom Bloom, as her full name is a lover of flowers. Case surprise, surprise.
First of all, Colleen Hoover, I roll my eyes so hard. I was like, this lady is killing me.
Yeah.
Lily Bloom.
Blossom, Lily Blossom Bloom.
I will say again, my imagination needs to be bigger because I loved the floral shop in the movie. I thought aesthetically it was gorgeous.
It was very eclectic, I guess is the best
Yes.
way to say it. Like a lot
Yeah.
of times when I think of flower shops, I think of beautiful vases of flowers just available for purchase. She had decor of plants and flowers, and her bouquets were very unique. And it just goes to show that I guess her love of flowers was a little bit different. It wasn't just based around, oh, look at a pretty rose. It was much
Right.
more in depth in the explanation she gave about why she loves
It was
flowers.
an immersive experience too, right?
Yes,
So you walk in and you get a chance to be surrounded by beautiful things. I would go to a flower shop that looked like that.
absolutely. And this is her dream. So she was able to make her dreams come true, open this flower shop. And it turns out that Ryle is the brother of her only employee, Alyssa, who in the film, Alyssa just walks in and wants a job because she's rich and bored. In the book,
Yes.
it is a little bit more in depth. She's looking for a distraction from the fact that she can't get pregnant,
Yeah.
which I think was a large distinction to make. But we'll go
Yeah.
with rich and bored for the sake of keeping it light, a little lighter and cuter, I guess, in the movie.
I want to be rich and bored, Ashley.
Girl, when she walked in with a Birkin talking about she needs a place to sit, can we clear a spot?
Now the same thing. I was like, that her with the Birkin. Oh
Yes.
my gosh.
You also see at one point she's wearing a shirt, Versace, 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 Versace,
Yes.
Versace. And I'm like, okay, get it, Alyssa. And played by Jenny Slate. Who does not love Jenny Slate? Like,
Exactly.
so again, we talk about her entertaining Ryle, but Ryle was really pressed to get close to Lily. He came by the flower shop, wrote her a note, trying to get next to her.
First customer.
First customer, she's still not wanting to play the game of having a one night stand or doing something quick with him and he will not let it go, right? So again, this differs a bit in the courtship that we find in the book, but in the end, he gets the girl because he's relentless with his pursuit and decides, hey, let me try this. I cannot get you out my head, girl.
So here's the deal. I like the fact that she let him pursue her. Like, she didn't crumble easily, because it's like, you're gonna work for this. But it's like, do I want to be the first for a bona fide hoe? Like, I feel like
um I feel like this is the fantasy that we get fed as women in a lot of these types of stories.
yes,
that it
yes.
takes the right one to change a man.
Hoe, or in the Regency era, a reform break, a la
Yes.
Anthony Bridgerton.
Yes. But also it's on the woman to be the right one to change his ways.
So
whereas
true.
we know that people change when they're ready to change, right?
Listen.
But we get fed this a lot in our consumption of various forms of media as women.
But again, we have literally some of the most beautiful women in the world, and they get cheated on. Beyonce, Halle Berry, J-Lo, like, so
all of them.
Janet Jackson, like,
all of them.
What do you mean? What do you mean? And
all
they have been cheated on.
Yeah.
So it's definitely the man.
Yes.
Yes. Definitely the man.
But my question for you in this whole courtship game is, did you fall for Ryle?
Yeah. I mean, hot, surgeon, rich. I don't have any faults yet. Like, you know what I mean?
I think I liked movie Ryle better than book Ryle in terms of the courtship.
Yep.
Because, book Ryle was like, I just need to F you one time and I just need to get you out my system.
Yes!
What?
That's so true.
What?
Why does that come up so often in some of these books, though? I'm like, really? Just get it out of our system.
Girl. And I felt like, Justin Baldoni's version, at least up to this point, had a little bit of a softer touch. And also, he's not ugly. So it was definitely easy to be like, oh yeah, when somebody's coming at you like this and showing you this much attention and being starting to be more intentional, like their whole scene montage of the dates they started going on and him with the hat on as they walk in the street and doing karaoke, like so that cute. Was very cute.
So cute.
I was like, y'all getting me. I feel it. You know what I mean? Like, this is, it's the early butterfly, can't wait to see you moments. And so I definitely was falling for him and them in that time period.
I agree. I mean, you do have two good looking people hanging out with each other. It's it's too bad they don't like each other in real life.
I know. Let's not dwell on it though. On a night out with Ryle and her mother, Lily runs into Atlas at a restaurant. And it was like seeing a ghost. You could see it on both of their faces. They never expected to see each other or cross paths again. Should she have told Ryle about this run-in with her first love?
Lily, again, it took me watching the movie to like remember what happened in the book. But it also makes sense because she is supposed to be so young. She could have worked on her communication. She really could. But I will also say, I don't know where I heard this from, but women are allowed their secrets too, right? And how long was her thing with Alice? I don't think it was I think it was an intense few months.
Yeah, they didn't really give a strong time frame, but I agree. I didn't even think it was like a year.
It wasn't even a year. And, he was a flash from the past. So
I struggle with this a little bit because I think, especially as a viewer, this is where there starts to be a little bit of confusion as we move on. It
Yeah.
starts to feel like she is doing things that could sabotage their relationship and hurt him in ways that
Yes.
he is not. Like,
That's a great call out because I did feel that too. There were
yeah,
several moments where I'm like, this feels sneaky. This feels
yeah,
now he is responsible for his reaction.
absolutely.
However, you know, you did keep this from him. So
Yes. And as invested as y'all both seem in this, I think there should have been more of a level of transparency, especially once y'all decided to go back to the restaurant. Like the first time, if it
yes.
was a, hey, I ran into him, never going to see that man again. But
Yep.
once y'all bring up y'all want to go back, this is probably when I should let you know why I don't think we should go back.
Correct. But I don't think she spoke up for herself enough
No.
in that at all.
And
Because let's think
also,
about
go
it.
ahead.
If the roles were reversed, you would be absolutely pissed. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Right. Especially because I think there's a good thought when it comes to relationships about protecting your partner and not putting them in a situation where they could be subject to embarrassment in some type of way by people that would have an effect on your relationship that could have been within your control, if that makes sense to you and to
Well,
the audience who's listening. Like, if I'm in a
especially
room and everybody else knows that I'm around one of your exes and I'm the only one who
yes,
doesn't know,
yes.
you're putting me in a
It,
very ugly situation.
especially if you've known this person biblically. You know what I mean? If y'all known each
Oh,
other
I
naked,
meant
I
ex in the biblical
absolutely.
sense. Are
Oh,
we
okay.
exes if we ain't never bumped uglies? I don't know. I'm too grown to be calling people
Well, what is
exes
he's
if we
used to
ain't
us?
never.
So who knows how many chicks he banged walking by them on
That's
the
true.
pier?
But even
Like,
in that case, like if he had her in a room and you seeing some lady there who you used to sleep with, I think you should tell her. Like I think
yeah,
it's fair, especially because people try to be funny and
they
people
do.
try to do things
Yes,
and
yes,
act certain
yes.
ways that you should have already told your significant other is a possibility.
And like you said, don't have me looking stupid out here
Yes. And so
because that's gonna piss me off.
that's what I'm saying about this dynamic. I didn't agree with because I do think it put Ryle in a situation to be made a fool of without his knowledge. But I will say that unfortunately, before they even go to the restaurant the second time, the reason why after I read the book and everything got a chance to settle and you see certain things towards the end of the film, I understood why this may have not ended up coming up for her is they start having incidents, as I will put in quotes for now. Okay.
Yep. Yep.
Ryle burns his hand trying to grab a dish out of the oven in the film. And what we see, what it looks like as the audience, is that he accidentally strikes Lily when he's pulling back from the sensation of the burn. Right. And so it looks like he unintentionally like pushes her and all this. And oh, it's just an accident. I hurt myself. You hurt yourself. We're all good though. Can't believe this happened. In the book, friends, Ryle intentionally pushed this woman
Yes,
and
he did.
she tells him and acknowledges if this ever happens again, I'm going to
Yep.
leave you.
Yep.
So here's why my B comes in terms of my grade. And I'm getting a little, if y'all can see me, jacked up because not to say that in life you're not gonna put on rose-colored glasses in these situations, that it could not be romanticized in the way that it is portrayed to people outside of that couple and outside of that person, which I get may be what they're trying to translate in the film. But to me, it is too easy once you watch the movie to think, was he really that abusive? Was this really what
It
they're
is
making it
easy.
seem? And
Yep.
I don't like that. I'm not saying that we have to see him slapping her around or doing anything super crazy, but I think we have to call a spade and not make this too ambiguous.
I agree. I think we kind of talked about this a little bit when we were on the phone.
Yep.
I think part of it was the rating of the movie. And then part of it also was how Justin wanted to portray Ryle in the movie, because Ryle had severe anger issues in the book.
Yes.
There was no misconstruing it at all, right?
Yes.
Whereas the Ryle here was more of a, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. Because there's a type of guy like that too, though. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
and even the idea that that's how it happens in the beginning of domestic violence situations, that they are very apologetic in the beginning.
Yeah.
And so I totally see where you're coming from, where Justin may have been coming from, but I think it's too easy to fall in love with Ryle because of that and negate the reality of the situation until we get a flash way later about what actually was happening. I just don't like that, because I told you I had a conversation with one of my guy friends and he was like, so did you feel like this movie was about domestic violence? Because besides this one scenario, was it really? Yes, the whole premise of the book in the film is domestic violence. And the fact that did not come across crystal clear is concerning to me.
Yep.
There should not be shades of gray to me in this, but that is my perception and that is my thought. And I understand, again, why in reality this could be the way, especially from the outside looking in, that you would be perceiving something like this happening unbeknownst to you. Even we want to talk about Diddy and Cassie. I just saw a picture on Instagram of Rihanna sitting next to Cassie, Jay-Z sitting next to Diddy, Beyonce sitting next to Jay-Z, and think about how many times that was happening. And those outside of Cassie's immediate circle may have never known what the reality was that she was living and experiencing. Yeah. Right? Because she put on the makeup, she put on the fit, she looked good. They acted normal. Doesn't mean that there was
somberness to her thing. Looking back, and even during it, I'm like, is it the fact that she's quiet or something like that? There was something that felt very somber about her.
That's not my perception. That was never my perception of Cassie. My perception was
especially that last Met Gala interaction was very odd to me.
May have been one of the times that he had just beat her up so bad and then put her on a red carpet.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole. Sorry.
Yeah, right. No, but I do understand what you're saying. Again, the book and the movie was so obvious in how different the character, Ryle was portrayed. I just assumed they were just trying to make it more palpable, because it is different when you are visually seeing something versus your imagination, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like they probably purposely held back. But yeah, there is a level of confusion. And I think they could have did a better job in the reveal with that too, because that was a little foggy too. Like, and in the beginning of the movie, she does say on that rooftop scene that she was an unreliable narrator. So
yeah,
if that wasn't foreshadowing, because it was definitely like, oh, it would have been nice if they put it like a tint to those scenes in her replay, like rose-colored glasses.
Yes, just something to distinguish.
Like, oh no, in star color, this is what actually happened.
Yeah.
And who goes and put their hand in the oven without a mitt in the first place?
Especially a surgeon.
Especially when you have the most important surgery of your career the next day.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And so again, this incident happens and then they end up back at the restaurant because Elisa and her husband now want to go. And Atlas ends up seeing the bruise on her face and his hand seemingly busted up, which, side note, Atlas is the chef and the owner of this restaurant, by the way. So he's out here living
That's
his best life too.
that's the thing that made me really upset about Lily, though. I'm like, why are you playing in Atlas' face? Like, oh, he's a waiter. He went to the army, he's a waiter. I'm like, you didn't think that he was capable
I don't know if
of
it's
owning?
I probably not even that. It's probably just your first thought when you saw him, because most of the time you're not going to meet the chef and the owner just coming out to wait tables, right? That's not necessarily going to be the norm in most restaurants. So I didn't think it was downplaying them, but definitely beautiful that for the sake of the book and the movie, they both get to live out these dreams that they had as
Yes.
children. You know, I think that's beautiful. Unfortunately, things turn violent between Atlas and Ryle, and again, in the movie felt some type of way because in this scene, it feels like Ryle's been bamboozled. It feels like he's been put in this situation and he's completely unaware that he is interacting at first with this man who she had this deep affection for. And then when they go outside in the street, he's like, you know, you have me. If I'm not what you want, tell me now, and start shedding that one thug tear. And I was thinking, like, girl, why'd you put this man in this situation?
I always call it the Demi Moore tear because she would always be the main one with that one eye. That, and I was like, "Ooh, white people are knucking if you bucket like in public." I don't think I've seen it in a while. I was like, yo, they are going in. I love how down Atlas was like immediately. He was like, first of all, you ain't even going to talk to her ever again.
Yeah, he was not playing games. He even walked away from the table while Alyssa's husband was still talking to him. He's like,
Yeah,
yo, I ain't got time for the shenanigans. What is
nope.
happening here? But what do you think about the name change of the restaurant, right? Because in the movie, the restaurant's name is Root. In the book, is Bib, better in Boston. What did you think of this switch up?
I like it. I liked it for the movie, especially because they did a great job connecting it to one of the scenes where they were, young Atlas and Lily.
Yeah,
Bib
I like Root better.
Bib required too much explanation. And again, when you're watching a movie, they leave little nuggets, but you also kind of need to get to the point.
Yeah, we ain't got all day. We
We ain't
gotta,
got all day.
we got
It's
two
better in
hours.
Boston. Like when you're sitting with a book for 10 hours, that's one thing.
Yeah, I like Root better anyway. Like I really do like it better as a name. So
Yeah.
no problems for me. But Atlas ends up coming by the flower shop the next day and gives Lily his number in case she should ever need it.
I thought it was smart that he put it on paper versus put it in the context, personally.
Smart and old school. I mean,
Yes.
who still writes down their numbers? I mean, that is okay, cool. Ryle ends up proposing again, a little different than in the books, than in the book versus the film, but it's still both are followed by quick nuptials, and we are husband and wife.
Not him stealing the thunder of his sister having their first baby. Sir, put my baby down. What do you
He
mean?
was so about to do it with the baby in his arms, wasn't he? Inspired, allegedly inspired. Unfortunately, the like honeymoon phase is very short lived because Ryle ends up finding that number in Lily's phone case, which leads to another quote unquote incident where Ryle claims Lily fell down the stairs.
Whew. This was a rough scene to read in the book, um, for me personally. And
Especially because in the
again,
book, he was in denial. He's like, you fell.
yes, the
You
fact that
fell.
he was gaslighting her the way he did was infuriating.
Yeah. He pushed her, and she knows he pushed her in the book for sure. In the movie,
Yeah.
it's still kind of like, what's happening? I don't know. Still love him, whatever. In the book, it's like, yo, I said I was gonna leave. I need to go. I'm still here. What am I still doing here? Like, again, this is where the internal monologue was appreciated because in the movie, it seemed like, again, she just was kind of moving through these significant moments and taking them in, but at the same time just moving forward. And but you feel the struggle in the book. You feel that, hey, I don't want to be my mom. I don't want to repeat
Yep,
these same patterns of behavior and abuse.
that's true.
The final straw for their relationship in the book and in the film is when Ryle seemingly attempts to rape her and bites her tattoo after realizing the inspiration behind it. This was definitely the hardest scene to have to sit through as
Ooh,
far as the film goes. Like the
yep.
look on Justin's face, the acknowledgement of like, I have for me, if I was Lily, I have no control over this situation or what this man is about to do was utterly terrifying.
I agree. It was unreal. And honestly, I did forget that he bit the heart.
Girl.
But I was like, what is what is happening here? You know what I mean? And he wouldn't let up. And I just, it was just one of those things where you kind of wish that Lily had just went ahead and left sooner because it just kept escalating and the situations kept escalating and getting worse and worse. And it's like, how bad does it have to be for you to finally leave this man?
And again, the difference, folks, with the book is that it is acknowledged by both of them that Ryle has issues and that he needs help. He ends up discussing that he just has this anger that he can't control. And they decide that when he gets heated, he will leave and be able to take time away to kind of resolve his anger before they come back and have conversation. So in the book, it's like a we will work on this together type of energy so we can make this work. You don't really get that again in the movie, but just to
No.
give you a little bit of context about why it got to reach the point that it did was like
Yeah.
her thinking, we can work through this. I can help you work through this. I understand you have these things that are within you because of what happened with your brother. Because in the book, he tells her about his brother Emerson's death.
Yes. Yep.
So in the book, and in the film, he and his sister Alyssa had an older brother, Emerson. And when Ryle was 6 and Emerson was a little bit older, Ryle accidentally shoots and kills his brother. So again, this goes back to that scene at the very beginning of the movie where he's so upset about
Yep.
the child who shot and killed their sibling because he knows that this what it does to you. And so he's been fighting against this. So in the book, he's the one who does the big reveal. He says he's been in therapy since. He's really has a lot of anger still because of that. And that was kind of a little bit of a justification. In the movie, you don't see that. You see
No.
Alyssa be the one to have this big reveal after this situation has happened, after Lily has left Ryle, to give a little bit of explanation, but also to say, as his sister, I wish you could find it in your heart to forgive him. But as your best friend, I will never speak to you again if
Mm.
you take that man back. So they made that a very palpable moment in the Alyssa Lily relationship more so than the
Yeah.
Lily Ryle relationship.
Yeah. That was definitely a choice. But I also feel like Ryle's anger wasn't on the same level as it was in the book. So
Yeah.
maybe they felt like they didn't need to have that explanation and like, oh, I'm working on it, I'm trying, versus, Lily having that revelation with his sister and her just giving her that ultimatum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, again, it comes down to time and timing and how you're going to fit stuff in. Because in the book, we also have Ryle going away for 3 months overseas for work and things like that, that just we don't have the time for necessarily in the film. So it made sense to me too. But what happened in both is she seeks refuge with Atlas, right? She calls Atlas after this scenario in the house, and he takes her to the hospital, and she finds out she's pregnant with Ryle's child.
When I tell you, when I read this in the book, I was devastated. I This was my introduction of like accidental pregnancy. It's a trope in fiction, especially in romance. I don't know how accidental it was because they were married, but still, it was not the revelation that you were hoping for, especially now that we had Atlas by her side.
Yeah, absolutely. But obviously, tough situation to be in because you want to be happy. And this was a man that she loved, and this is her husband. And she
Yep.
did want a baby with this man. So it was like such a bittersweet
Yep.
moment to find out you're pregnant when you're deciding if you're going to have the dissolution of your marriage because your husband has become abusive. So it was tough. That was tough too, to think about the position that she finds herself in. But we do get that flashback to the reality of those previous moments in the film, which again just reiterates why it's best that Lily removes herself from Ryle. And so we get a chance to see a little bit of her through the pregnancy, and she lets Ryle be involved a little bit. He comes over and helps put together the crib, things like that. And we also see the birth scene, right? And we see they decide to name the baby Emerson after Ryle and Alyssa's brother, to pay homage. And both in the book and in the film, something switches in Lily's head the moment that the baby is born, where if she wasn't sure before, the moment this baby pops out, she said, guess what? I'm going to need that divorce. Not for me, not for you, but for our child. This is an impactful scene in both, where she says, what would you do if our daughter came to you and said that the man she loved was hurting her, that he was abusing her? And he ends up saying, I would tell her to get as far away from him as possible. So, the realization and recognition of what needed to happen was evident in both the book and the film for me, even though the book made it a little bit more gray in the pregnancy as to what she was going to do. Ultimately, it ends with us was the moment of her having a child and not wanting to repeat the patterns of abuse she had experienced within her childhood.
Yep. But yeah,
So
it was a powerful moment in the hospital. And I'm not gonna lie, when reading the book, I was scared because I'm like, how is he going to react to this? Because he also was actively trying to salvage his relationship with her. Like, is he gonna go in a fit of anger? But I thought the film adaptation of it went really well. He still shows his ass because he's a big issue for the second book, which is interesting.
well, I have
So,
no doubt, because this ends with Lily reconnecting with Atlas, right? About a year after their daughter is born. And so if the sequel picks right up after this and Lily and Ryle are trying to co-parent, guys, we know he ain't just about to be cool with, Atlas playing stepdaddy to his child after everything that's happened and everything that he feels towards this man. So I can only imagine. I mean, I haven't read the second book yet, but I can only imagine. Any other final thoughts? Because again, we're probably never going to see this sequel grace our screens. So
now
any
with the
other,
original cast,
mm-mm, any other final thoughts on It Ends With Us and this story?
overall, like I said, I felt bamboozled when I read the book because I was like, oh, I'm falling in love with Ryle. This is a love story. And then he starts showing his ass, and you realize, oh, this is a love story about her and Atlas, or just her and, standing up for herself, and Atlas being someone that she can turn to, but ultimately she had to do it for herself and then ultimately for her child, right? Powerful story. And so many people connected with it. I did think the movie did a great job overall. One of my favorite scenes, I had a few chuckles throughout it, but my favorite one, so in the, you know, fight night between Atlas and Ryle, Ryle was like, "Oh, is this the guy you wasted your virginity on?" And so when Atlas shows up to the floral shop to give Lily his number if she ever needed to reach out, she was like, it wasn't a waste, right?" And he was like, "Yes, I know. I was there." I was like, "Oh my God, I love it." And I'm like, oh, Atlas. I love Atlas' character, especially in the book, because he's the strong silent type. You know what I mean? Like just very steadfast and very much like my made up, I love you, I will do anything for you type of deal. I think the actor who portrayed him did a really good job. I was a little bit nervous when I first saw the casting because I wasn't familiar with his work, but I think he did a great job.
He has a great voice,
He
and a good
does.
voice gets me all the time. And I agree. I mean, I hadn't read the book yet, so I didn't have any preconceived notions of what I thought anybody would look like because I watched the movie first. So those folks were those folks.
Yeah.
But I felt like he had like the stoicism or whatever it is that Atlas kind of had as a
Yep.
character. And he
Yep.
got me with that line. If you ever find yourself in a position to fall in love again, fall in love with me, girl.
That
Yes,
was another one.
baby.
Ashley, actually highlighted that too. I started tearing up at that one. I was like, yo, if this ain't a line.
Yeah. Tyler Perry somewhere plotting on how to use that for his next picture. Because you know he loves to have a damsel in distress with a man with a bad wig
Oh
on
my
waiting in the
gosh.
wings.
Yep. Yep. And Jenny Slate would have been his Medea. Oh, Ashley, I thought it was also important that she had the conversation with her mom while she was pregnant on like,
Yeah.
why did you stay? And
Yeah.
her mom, she did keep it real. She was like, I did love him. That was rough.
Yeah. And I think that was a great acknowledgement because I don't remember if it was in the actual author's notes or just in the epilogue of the book, but I do think it's easy to judge people when they're in these situations or think, oh, I would never stay in that if it were me, and negate the fact that a lot of situations, I mean, they're in love with this person. This is someone that they love and trust that's doing this to them. So it's not easy to just pull yourself out of that, even if it looks like to you from the outside that they should. And that felt like a very real struggle. And that made a lot of sense. I wonder why in the movie they didn't have her mom move to Boston. Because in the book, the mom moves to Boston. I was
Mm-hmm.
curious about that. I was like, maybe they just didn't feel like it was a pivotal enough plot point to need.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a choice. So
It definitely was.
yeah. All right, guys. Well, that is it for our recap and just overall discussion of It Ends With Us and the subsequent drama that's been surrounding the cast in this film. I'm sure we'll have more to talk about in future headlines and hot topics about this, but let us know any thoughts that you guys have had either on the book, on the movie, or on the drama that we've seen in these headlines. So keep us posted. Look forward to hearing from you. All right, Delora, let's move on to hidden gems for the week. What you got?
All right, Ashley. I have one book for the hidden gem this week. Y'all gonna laugh on why I chose this book. It is called A Love Song for Ricki Wilde by Tio Williams. I think this was actually a hidden gem of mine last year as well. It was probably shortly after I read it. The reason why I wanted to bring it up again, specifically for this recap, is because this novel is about a Black girl who's a florist. And she has this really cool concept and a dream of, being a florist. And she's pursuing her dream. She's a bit of the black sheep of her family. And she ends up in this brownstone where she meets, oh Lord, am I going to go there? She meets her Jonathan Majors. And what I mean by that is she meets a man from the past, from the Renaissance.
Oh, I was like, what? Got it.
Harlem Brownstone. She somehow is able to connect with this man from the Renaissance era. So that's the 1920s, y'all, if you're not familiar with the Harlem Renaissance. Yeah, this book came out last year. It's not my favorite from the author. My favorite is 7 Days in June. Ooh, child, that's a book. But it was a delightful read, nonetheless. And again, if you want to read about Black girls wanting, if you want to read about a Black girl falling in love and being a florist, like Lily Bloom. This is a book for you.
Very nice. Well, mine is not quite on the nose for this week, but it's different. It's interesting. It is a Peacock show called Laid, starring our girl from Everything Everywhere All at Once, Stephanie Sue. And
Yes.
the premise of this just caught me, and I was like, let me see what this is about. Stephanie is starring in this as a woman whose former partners start dying in very mysterious ways. And she has to start like retracing her sexual history to essentially warn them that, you know, they're out here getting got. And they are literally getting got in the order in which she slept with them. It is so wild and different that I definitely binged it and finished it within probably 1 or 2 sittings.
Does she have a spell on her vagina or something?
She went to the doctor to see, because she was like, I got what's going on down there that is causing death and dismemberment. You know what I'm saying? Like, what's happening?
Wow.
And so, you know, we get to see some faces that we've seen from like Freeform. You know, we have like Tommy Martinez, who's in this, who was in one of the Freeform shows, Josiah Mehmet, who's been in many things, Michael Angarino, you know, who dated Kristen Stewart back in the day. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's an interesting cast of characters, and it's an interesting premise, and it's labeled a comedy, so it's really more black dark comedy, which is I love. So if you get into that too, I think you'll enjoy this one. And again, Stephanie Sue is a force. Like, I fell in love with her on Everything Everywhere All at Once, and I think you guys will enjoy this one from her as well. So that is Laid, TV series available on Peacock. And that is it. That is all, guys. We will let you go. We will be back for more headlines and hot topics and pop culture-ish going on these streets. But please share this episode with everybody you know. We appreciate it. In the meantime, as always, kids, be blessed.
Bye.